have come to the watching portion of Power. As we know, P is for playing, which we've already done. Watching, W, and then we'll do reading. But it's time to do Watching with Wendy, which I love. It actually works so well. We have an amazing guest on for this week, and I know that for her job, she watches a ton of stuff. She has her very own YouTube channel, The Movie Couple, where she literally reviews movies. So, hey, Wendy Lee Zaney, who's on.
Yay.
What's up? Talk to us. You've been watching a bunch because of HBO Max. What's it called? Max now? Go.
HBO Max.
Yeah, HBO Max just released a whole bunch of Miyazaki films. So I immediately was like, okay, let me go ahead and watch at least one of the Miyazaki films that I have never watched before. And that was Pompoko, which is the one that you see in the middle with all the little raccoons. And it's just the cutest thing, because what made it interesting was the way we heard about Pompoko is like, hey, have you heard about this movie with transforming raccoons that have giant sacks? And I was like, giant sacks? And it's their parts. And they use it they expand
Tanuki.
it. And they fly it. Yeah, a Tanuki. And it's just so interesting, because I was like, this just seemed like a very kind of targeted toward young audience, but I was very wrong to find out that these raccoons, the only reason why they're kind of trying to survive is because us as humans have overtaken their home, and we're turning their forests into, like apartments and like communities, and we're driving them further and further away from their homes, where they're like, we have no place to live, we are gonna die out. So they kind of got all their tribes together and like, we gotta fight back, and we have to reclaim our land. And these Tanukis kind of go on an adventure, and they first have to learn the art of transformation to transform into the human, to kind of infiltrate the human world and learn a little bit more about that, and try to kind of scare the humans out of their current living spaces to reclaim their land. And I don't want to spoil it for you if you haven't seen it, but it goes down a really interesting path. And that's kind of what I love about Miyazaki films, that it always touches on a bit of like the environment, and how much humans have like impacted the environment and how it's impacting nature. So that was kind of like a big takeaway from Miyazaki films.
I feel like we've seen a lot of that, like with Pocahontas, Ferngully, Avatar as well. Like we're driving that message home, but is it really stopping, deforestations, all of that fun stuff? I have a very, very upsetting confession. I have never seen a Miyazaki film ever. In 2012, I was dating a guy, and I told him that, and he said that was unacceptable. So he bought me Spirited Away and Howl's Moving Castle, and I promised him I would watch it. And then I got my visa approved for America, and I packed everything up and I left, and I have no idea what happened to those DVDs. I think now that HBO Max has got this, I need to get started. What is the number one movie that I should watch from Miyazaki?
I feel like a lot of people are going to say Spirited Away or Princess Mononoke. I think the first one for you, I would actually want to say Princess Mononoke, because it's very action packed, and it's about, a very, very strong female character. And again, it has a lot to do with kind of that Ferngully Pocahontas thing where they're fighting against like the people that are changing the environment for the worst. But my very first venture, which is kind of what kicked off my love for Miyazaki, was actually not Totoro, which is very cute and way more kids friendly. But my grandfather, when he showed it to me, he's like, no, you're going to watch Nausicaa, because it's got a strong female character, and she's fighting for clean air, and because the air she lives in is very toxic, and all these like creatures have turned against the humankind. And they're kind of like, they're scary, they're angry, they're terrible. And in reality, it's the environment and the toxic air that's kind of turning them into these, like, they're just kind of in a sense misunderstood. So that was the first one that he had me watch. But I would say Totoro is universally loved. It's really adorable. It's about these two sisters having relocated to the countryside while their mother stays in a hospital, and she's trying to recover from the illness. And through their adventure in this new home that they have moved to, they encounter Totoro and his, little fellow other Totoro, I don't know what you would call them, but it's super adorable. It's got a little bit of like fantastical magic touch to it, but not so much that you're so detached from the actual story.
I'm
Okay.
in.
The only one that I've ever seen, I think, was Spirited Away. I'm like, a little girl gets like lost in another world. She's not with her parents. There's a train involved.
Yeah.
Right?
That one's a really, really good one where it's a little scary in the beginning too because they explore this temple or this area and where everything seemed normal and then all of a sudden people started turning into pigs.
Yes. That is definitely the one that I have seen.
Oi. It's funny though because we had Will Haynes on as a guest last time, like 2 weeks ago, and he mentioned Nausicaa as well, saying that he'd I think recently seen it again, or it was something that was just absolutely inspiring him, and he was obsessed with it. So that's 2 times in a month. Maybe I should start there.
Do it.
Okay, I'll do it now.
Do it now. we'll mail you some popcorn and some goobers and some Nestle's Bunch of Crunch.
Like, just what a name. Why would you call it a goober? And a goober in Mario as well, like goobers.
No, that's a Goomba.
Yep.
There's also, bringing it back around, there's also a Tanuki suit in Mario. That's why I know what Tanukis are from Mario Brothers, not from anime.
I know what a cat, a fox, and a pig is, and I think a monkey, because of this Japanese song that I learnt in high school, which is still so good, because it takes the last letter of the name, and that's the first sound of the other animal name. It's really cool. I'll show you one time. You can teach it to Logan, and he'll love it.
Cute.
Okay. Cool. I love it. So, Wendy, that's what you've been watching, and that's what you recommend for everybody, right?
I do. That's my top 3 picks for now. But I honestly, if any of the Miyazaki films, you just click on what they have in the HBO Max library, and I think you're in for a ride. And the animation is always absolutely gorgeous, and the story is always very unique and very original.
And now, if you can't find them on HBO Max because HBO Max doesn't like your Roku or your Amazon Fire Stick, where else might you be able to find them?
I believe you can rent them on Amazon as well. I actually didn't look that up, but because I own a lot of it physical. I like a lot of my media to be physical rather than digital. So I'm that hoarder that has all the DVDs and all the box sets because I need it in my life. It's like my Animal Crossing habits. It's like my life. I just need to collect them all, and then they sit there and collect dust because now I can just stream it. But I believe you can, get it still on VOD or on Amazon Prime.
Awesome. Yay. Thank you for those recommendations. It is time for some Bombs Away Q&A. So we're going to bring Amy back in. Hi, Amy.
Hi.
What questions?
Yes, I'll be...
What questions do you have for Wendy today?
So this one's from Patreon, but I will be getting one from Twitch as well. So send those in. This one's from Steven Summers, patreon.com/geekbomb. Where would you like to see the Star Wars movies specifically go in the future now that the main saga is over? Characters, places, storylines, what would you like to see?
I'm a huge Ahsoka Tano fan. I would love nothing more for an Ahsoka Tano standalone movie. I know there's been rumors about her appearance in The Mandalorian Season 2, so maybe that will open the gates for various characters that we know from like the animated canon and stuff like that to kind of have their own movie. But I would also love something that's absolutely completely original and away from the Skywalker saga, like that whole line. We've seen the story. There's already 9 episodes. We've ended it. It's great. I would love us to do kind of like and if people kind of want to hold on to that, kind of what Avatar The Last Airbender did with The Legend of Korra, it's to kind of go like 100 years past what had happened in The Rise of Skywalker and go there. So you can kind of refer back to Rey and Finn and Poe and BB-8 and all these people to kind of, but not have them in the movie. And this was, so we still kind of feel like this is, the same, there's still a bit of connected tissue, but it's still brand new story, brand new characters, new lightsabers, new regime, whatever it may be. That's what I would be. It's to get me excited for Star Wars again, because literally then we can't sit here and kind of fan theory to the point where we don't enjoy the movie, because it's kind of like we build in our head. Like that's kind of like my issue with the Star Wars films is I want to see certain things play out so much in a certain way that I almost ruin my own experience watching these films instead of watching what the storytellers want to tell. So that's what I would want for a brand new Star Wars story. Super original, all new characters.
I have a feeling we're going to be talking so much more about Star Wars in Power Down, because I have the thought. All I'm going to say is Old Republic. I want to go back, and I want it to kind of be like X-Men in the sense that you've got one side fighting against the other side. And in the Old Republic, it wasn't the rule of two with Sith. It meant that there was an entire Sith army and there was an entire Jedi force. And they, obviously not agree. So it's like good versus evil in that sense. And this is, I guess, with what I stumbled through with the Star Wars prequels a lot of the time was that it was so bogged down on the trade federations, the trade structures and the political kind of like that side of things. And I think that this would completely strip that back. It wouldn't necessarily be about sort of like the empire. It would be about these two forces. And they would build their lightsabers and they would harvest kyber crystals and it would be wonderful. What about you, Trish?
I would love to see more from the dark side. I want an entire film or an entire trilogy that just explores what the dark side really is, how the great Sith Lords came to power, what their stories are. I feel like we get so much focused on the light side of the Force. It's totally imbalanced. And so there's been a lot of books out there like Darth Plagueis and stuff like that, but let's actually get a film. Bring that to screen. I want to know about that.
So like Joker, but Sith.
But good.
But ooh, I like that burn.
Yeah.
I like that sick burn out of Amy.
Do we have a question from Twitch yet?
Hey, someone agreed with me. Hey, thanks, SGS. Yeah, people are talking about, like HBO Max comparing to Disney Plus. Like, how do you feel about both of those? Are you guys watching?
Yeah, STS says, why isn't HBO Max as successful as Disney Plus? Is that the one that you're looking at, Amy?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, as a parent, I can tell you having the access to the entire Disney library for my kid is huge, and HBO Max definitely doesn't have that. I think also when you think of HBO Max, you're like, I don't know, bless you. I think you're like, I don't know by just hearing HBO Max exactly what library of content that is. Whereas when you hear Disney Plus, you're like, I know that's Marvel. I know that's Star Wars. I know that's every Disney film that I remember from my childhood. Like, you know exactly what you're getting. So I think it's kind of a no-brainer purchase. Whereas HBO has admittedly had some problems marketing exactly what HBO Go, HBO Now, HBO Max are and what they contain. And I think if they were a little bit more front facing and kind of simplified in their marketing, they would be doing better.
Yeah, agreed with that, because just like you said, Disney Plus has that built-in audience already, whether you're like a 90s kid growing up and you want to revisit all the Disney Channel movies and the shows, or if you've got kids at home and you want to put on the more kid-friendly stuff for them, that it's really easy. It's really on one place. And HBO, it's kind of like all the IPs are all over the place. It's like, now we get Miyazaki, which is great. And then it's like, oh, well, now we're getting Doom Patrol and Batwoman and this and that. And it's kind of like, whoa, it was just so confusing. And I remember trying to nail down exactly what like their library was. And I had a hard time. And especially after, I think it was like Big Little Lies, after I finished watching both seasons, I was kind of like, well, I really have... And the Game of Thrones, once that was over, I was like, well, what do I have to watch now? I think I'm kind of done.
Yeah, and actually, HBO Max has the entire Sesame Street library.
Ooh.
So, which is huge. But I wouldn't know that.
Content?
It's tons of content. But yeah, I wouldn't know that if I wasn't actively seeking it out because I have a 3-year-old who's just the right age to start watching Sesame Street. So yeah, I think it all comes down to marketing.
Yeah,
it's been really lackluster for HBO Max, considering it's supposed to be massive, the price point higher because they're delivering more. But if we are sitting here and we can't even name 5 things, it's like, that's not a good sign. But they will have all the Harry Potters, so...
When is that supposed to happen? I hadn't heard that, Maude.
Yeah, don't know. But yeah. Good. Thanks for the chat and discussions. Twitch, that was really fun. But that was the watching component. We will be back for reading. So guys, don't go anywhere.